Just mention the word guns and people line up passionately on both sides of the issue, pro and con. Join us next on NewsNite as we make guns the focus of our discussion. This is NewsNite, and I'm Jody Miller. Thank you for joining us. You know, the mid-December shootings in Newtown, Connecticut have started a discussion, a collective discussion nationally about guns and gun violence. That discussion has run the gamut from gun safety issues to gun access issues to banning semi-automatic assault weapons to banning high-capacity magazines to Second Amendment rights and mental health issues. Here at NewsNite, we want to continue that discussion, and for that reason, I've invited a panel of 3 people here to talk about this, to continue the discussion, so that you, our viewers, can be better informed. I want you to welcome Rosie Craig, Rosetta Craig, who is here with us as a member of the Ohio Coalition Against Gun Violence.
Thank you.
Julie Dobransky, who is a co-owner with her husband Dave of Dobransky Firearms in Massillon, Ohio. Julie, hi. Welcome. And Dan Cleavenger, who is a retired detective after 37 years with the Fairlawn Police, and who is also a CCW instructor. He is the owner of and instructor with D D Firearms. Thank you all very much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you.
I want to start the discussion because with the Newtown, Connecticut shootings, with the shooting we saw last year in Chardon, Ohio, I want to know what each of you are hearing from your respective constituents as this discussion about guns and gun violence ensues. So, Rosie, do you want to start? What are you hearing at the Ohio Coalition Against Gun Violence?
We are immensely pleased with President Obama's proposal. It is a broad spectrum proposal that does not have any one element in it that is outrageous or extreme. It is only common sense. If you look at his proposals, I see it kind of breaking down into 5 areas. 1, universal background checks on every gun sale. Second of all, we're trying to address the proliferation of military-style weapons, which are designed in a broad sense to shoot a big burst of many, many bullets to great devastation. And we're trying to address the types of guns that are engineered to be able to handle the heat of shooting a lot of bullets.
Is this what your constituency is telling you that they're interested about?
They are very interested in seeing something done about the proliferation of these military-style weapons, quote unquote, which of course have to be you have to have a definition for that, which can get very lengthy. But going on from that, the high-capacity clips goes with this idea of shooting a lot of bullets in one burst. And then going on to the executive orders, which only makes sense. We make the existing laws and the people who must enforce those laws more enforceable. We study the problem and we deal with mental health. Those you can look at the executive orders and the proposed legislation, and it really breaks down into that. Background checks, military-style weapons, enforce the laws better, study the problem, deal with mental health. That's common sense, and it is not extreme, but it is very necessary.
Julie, as a gun store owner, what are your customers? What are the people coming into your store? What are you hearing from them?
Our customers consist of sporting people. They consist of people that are concerned that their Second Amendment rights are going to be taken away from them. They have come in and they are starting to buy some of the weapons that they feel may be banned by President Obama's proposition, and they're very concerned. They're very concerned that this is 2008 all over again, and that they're not going to be able to buy weapons because Obama is trying to do a quick fix. He's not trying to. The root of the problem is not the weapon itself. The root of the problem is that we have something, a breakdown of society that is causing our children to to react in the way they're doing, and what they have is a tool, which are our guns. And so our customers are very, very concerned that their rights will be taken from them.
Dan, you teach classes. In fact, you teach a lot of concealed carry weapon permit classes. What are you hearing from the people in your classes?
Well, first of all, I'd like to address your first question. Everybody that I know, everybody I put through my classes, and that's quite a few people, were horrified by the school shooting in Connecticut. It sickened me. Secondly, they're also very concerned that the government would want to blame that shooting on a specific type of firearm. A semi-automatic .223 caliber rifle that has that's cosmetically similar to a full automatic military rifle. Also, magazine capacity ban, they're upset about that because they know as well as I do that would have absolutely no effect on crime.
It wouldn't. Why?
For what purpose? If you ban a AR-15, which I have over here to my left, I also have a .22 caliber rifle that my father bought me when I was 17 years old. It holds 16 rounds of .22 caliber ammo. Now, according to a lot of the anti-gun people, that's a high-capacity magazine. So even if you ban the semi-auto AR-15, I could still go and purchase a semi-auto .22 caliber rifle with a large magazine capacity, firing a .22 caliber round that's not as powerful as a .223, but in some ways it's similar.
We're going to get into the guns, obviously, a little bit later, because I do want you to describe for our viewers what those guns are all about. But one of the things that I do want to talk about is whether or not more guns mean less crime. So how do each of you feel about that statement?
Well, first of all, I'm married to a very high-level PhD economist who studies data. That's his life, is to study data. The first thing you have to realize as we are trying to look at this problem of gun violence and try to come up with a study that means something is that your study is only as good as the data you have. We have not been allowed to collect actual data.
And that's by law, correct?
That's by law.
Okay.
That's by law. So we have not collected good data. We have body counts. But, for example, we do not even know how many people in this country are sitting in a wheelchair because they have been shot by a gun. We don't know how many of them. And there's a lot of them. Okay? So the people that say more guns mean more crimes, more guns mean less crime, until we are given, until that, but the reason that Obama's plan is so important is that it's broad-based. He's lifting the ban on study. Coincidence is not causality.
Dan, how about you? Do more guns mean less crime?
All I can go by is the FBI statistics that are produced every year that I read once a year. And the FBI said that crime has dropped drastically in the last 10 years, every single year. Now, since President Obama was elected the first time, President Obama was elected, from that January to April of that first year, we're talking 4 months, more firearms were sold in that 4-month period than there are members of the Indian and Chinese armies. Every gun store in the state has their sales have increased every single month since he's been in office. The lady is right. There is a proliferation of firearms in this country. But we have more firearms, but yet crime is dropping. Why is that?
But gun crime is not dropping.
You can argue with the FBI, ma'am. I don't know.
No, I mean,
that's
the
what I
gun
read.
deaths
That's what
are
they
not
tell
dropping.
me. Okay.
They hit a low at about 28,000 per year. They've creeped back up to 30,000 per year. And the American public has to stop and take pause. We're talking 30,000 Americans per year lose their lives. Let's multiply that by 10. We're talking 300,000 in a decade. Let's go back to the Civil Rights Movement 50 years ago, 1963. We're talking 50 years. We're talking between 1 million and 1.5 million Americans have lost their lives through gun violence. And we're saying we can't do anything about it? I don't think so.
One of the things, okay, that you often hear is that Second Amendment rights can be restricted by perhaps moving forward. Now, I want to read the Second Amendment so that we can discuss Second Amendment rights. The Second Amendment right, as ratified by the states, is, quote, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. So how does the issue of Second Amendment come into play with all this?
I believe in the Second Amendment. I believe in every constitutional amendment, and I believe in the Constitution. I believe that the Constitution must seek an ever-dynamic balance between the right of the people, of an individual person, and the good of the people. What upsets me when I hear people who claim that they are supporters of the Second Amendment, I say, where is their compassion? I don't hear much compassion from them. I say, we can't do anything about it, and I'm not going to do anything about it. And they don't care about the loss that America has had from gun violence. They don't care. They haven't looked into the coffin and seen a dead child like I have. They don't care.
Excuse me.
I want to...
Yes, how can you say that? I object to that. How can you say that we are not compassionate about the deaths? Do you think that we do not see children? Do you think we don't watch the news? What we say is we have rights. We are citizens that are abiding by the law. We do our background checks. It is not the citizens. It is not the people who have their CCW. You don't see them. They're not the ones that are going out shooting children.
Let's get back though to my question. Second Amendment rights. How would anything that maybe has been proposed infringe upon Second Amendment rights? Dan?
Okay, you're familiar with the Constitution of the State of Ohio?
Mildly.
Okay. There's a section about militia in the state of Ohio. Have you ever read it?
I have not.
Okay. It has two sections. One, it talks about an organized militia, which is our National Guard. It also talks, secondly, about an unorganized militia. Those are the people sitting here at this table, ma'am. So we are members of the Ohio Militia.
Because you have guns?
No, we're members by law.
Because
okay?
we are
it's
just
in our
people
Ohio
of the
Revised
state?
Code.
Okay.
And there's a reason for that. I hear arguments all the time that our founding fathers had no idea that we were going to come up with semi-automatic rifles. That was not their intent, to limit the type of firearm that you have or you own. Their intent was for the people of this country to be able to purchase and own firearms. That was their right. And when you attack the Second Amendment, or people who do attack the Second Amendment, they're forgetting about what the Second Amendment actually means and why it came into play. Because of the tyranny these people suffered in Europe. They came to the United States and they said, you know what, we're going to come up with these laws and these rules that the government's not going to be able to do that to us again, ever.
But I don't think we're in a position, Dan, where the government is going to do that to us again at this point.
I certainly hope not.
Okay.
But can you say that 100%?
You can't really say anything
Of course
100%.
Not.
Now, but what I want to do is I want to talk about some of the specifics, particularly in the legislative proposals that President Obama has put forth, one of which would be a ban on semi-automatic rifles. Why should there not be a ban, or why should there be a ban on these kinds of rifles? And Dan, would you please pick up, if you would, for us, the
All right.
semi-automatic rifle you brought?
I've got two semi-automatic rifles here. One is a Rock River semi-auto .223 caliber rifle. Mm-hmm. Now, this is a semi-automatic rifle. I can load a magazine, place the magazine in the magazine well, take the safety off, and every time I pull the trigger, one time, a bullet will go off until the magazine is empty.
In contrast, for our viewers, to a machine gun, which you pull the bullet and it spatters bullets all the time.
There are two types of full automatic weapons. One is a machine gun that fires rifle ammunition. With one pull of the trigger, as long as the ammunition supply is there, it will continue to fire. The second type of full automatic weapon is called a submachine gun. A submachine gun fires pistol ammunition, and it fires exactly the same way.
Now, what we're going to do, and I want our viewers to know, we are in fact going to continue this part of our discussion so that Dan can describe these guns to us on NewsNite.net.
For more NewsNite content, including extended discussions, full interviews, and the chance to speak your mind about the issues, join us online at NewsNite.net.
There's always some interesting discussion on the extended discussion part of NewsNite, and I would urge you to go there because we did talk about some background checks and the institution and the regulations of background checks. We're going to continue our discussion here on the televised portion with that. Julie, I have a couple questions I would like to direct to you, obviously, as a gun store owner. Have you seen an increase in sales since mid-December, and what kind of numbers might we be talking about?
Okay, first of all, December is always a busy month. You've got your holiday sales in there. But there has been an increase in sales. There's been a run on ammo, and it is because our customers are afraid that there's going to be a ban on some of the items that they want to own and they want to use. There is an increase. National average is, for 2012, the national average has been an increase of 19%. Background checks. There is, you can do multiple guns on a background check. So.
Okay, because I want to ask you that. When somebody comes into your store and wants to buy a gun, you as a licensed gun dealer have to run a background check.
We do.
What does that entail?
What does that entail? Ours is done electronically. The customer is asked to provide us a copy of a government-issued identification.
Like a driver's license.
Like a driver's license, exactly, and it has to have their current address on that. We take that one step further. We take a copy of their driver's license. We get their contact information in case there is some other questions that we have after the sale is done. They have to fill out a background questionnaire that asks if they've ever had domestic violence, if they've ever been adjudicated mentally defective.
Do you check on that, or do you just assume that the truth is being...
That is something that is done, that you do submit this to NICS, which is your National Instant Criminal Background Check.
Okay.
And it is instant. The average is about 30 seconds where they do the check, and if there isn't any background discrepancies, then they do get a proceed, and in Ohio they are allowed to take the gun immediately.
40% of gun sales, if I have my statistics correct, are through gun shows, private sales. So those don't require background checks, do they? Gun shows, sales?
That may not be an entirely correct figure.
Okay.
Gun shows, people who sell guns at gun shows, there are still FFL dealers there that sell guns.
Okay.
Okay. So
but there are also...
You're correct. That's correct. But I would say the large majority of the gun shows I've been at, the FFL dealers have the biggest sales. If a guy comes in with a gun or a handgun, maybe he might sell it to somebody else inside there. But the majority of the firearms that go through a gun show go through an FFL dealer.
Okay.
The thing is, we don't really know. We don't, obviously, since it's a secondary market that we are not able to track, we are going to have our best estimate, and that is our best estimate. The point is that there's a lot of them, and they may not be going through the secondary sales where you have been, but they are going through secondary sales. I became involved in the situation. I got the mother's worst nightmare call, almost the mother's worst nightmare call from my 15-year-old daughter. I was mad at her. I thought she'd lost her lunch again. I was going to have to make another trip to school. She's crying. She's in tears. She says, "Mom, there was a shooting this morning, and the people that saw it happen said it was Penny. Penny Chang in 1999 was my daughter's friend. She was gunned down a month before Columbine while walking to school, 100 yards from the police chief's office and 25 yards from two policemen having breakfast in front of 25 other children. I looked into that coffin. The young man, 21 years of age, with a criminal background and a mental health history, was identified at 2 Medina gun shows. He bought a gun show without having a background check, and he used it within 3 weeks to kill Penny.
So how do we stop this? How do we stop that kind of person from falling through the cracks and getting a gun?
Well, the first thing is to take the background check that, that I'm sure Julie is very conscientious about doing, and make sure that everybody does it.
Everybody who sells a gun?
Everybody who sells a gun, secondhand, whatever. I mean, they can use a federally licensed dealer and clear whatever we have to do with Obama's letter to explain how to do it, so that a federally licensed firearms dealer can do their part to stop this by being the vessel for doing the next background check.
Will that help?
Will it help? Possibly, but that's only one step. What'll happen if that happens? This lady is going to be back on your program again. She'll be back on this program, and she'll be trying to change something else that she thinks is going to make it better. Now, as far as background checks, if I want to sell my gun to a relative or give my gun to a relative, I don't think I should have to do that.
I think
now, if I go to a gun show, okay, I feel that all sales through a gun show should go through an FFL dealer, because that's where straw purchases occur. But I have found out statistics, and once again, we can argue statistics all day long, it's a small group of people who purchase their guns from gun shows. But having said that, I still feel it should be a background check at gun shows. I don't think there'd be a problem.
How many? I have a question. How many of these killings that we've heard, that we've seen, how many have come back that they've been purchased at a gun show? That they have not had a background check. So will that solve the problem?
Right. And that's it's a valid point. But at this point, the statistics.
Okay.
I have another question I want to ask the three of you, and that would be, in Ohio, are guns registered?
No.
No.
Why?
Why would you want to register a gun? Why would the government want to know what guns you have? For what purpose?
You don't think it would help to track
Absolutely
guns
not.
and make sure that...
Absolutely not.
In what respect?
Why would the government want to know who has what guns? For what purpose?
Cars we have.
For what purpose?
Just to better understand where the guns are?
Well, see, I guess there might be some logic if you think about it like that. But in reality, governments have no business knowing who has firearms in this country.
They have business knowing where our cars are at.
Okay.
They have business knowing where the Sudafed is at. Why shouldn't they know? Sudafed's a problem. We can't stop all
And you might find this
manufacturers,
interesting, since you brought up
monitor our
cars.
Sudafed.
The little story that you gave me was terrible. Your friend's, your daughter's friend
Yes,
that was
it was
killed,
terrible.
that was heartbreaking.
Yes, it
I'd like
was.
to tell you a story real quick.
Quickly, though, because we're
I
running out of
handled an
time.
accident when I first became a policeman. 17-year-old boy was drunk, flipped his car on Route 21. His girlfriend slid out the door and slid about 300 feet on the side of her head. She was 15 years old. I handled that. He was drunk as a skunk. It was terrible.
Okay, now we're talking guns here, not drunken driving.
drunk
But I do
driving.
want to ask you, all right, all three of you, is there a common sense to tackle some of the issues in the discussion that we are having, to draw sensible lines that allow us to let people keep their guns and yet stop the kind of gun violence that we are seeing more frequently?
Education. It's all about education. We need to get back to the basics. We need these people who their children are left alone and left to let the media and the action movies train their children. That is our problem.
Dan?
There is no way to stop an individual who wants to commit a crime. If there was, we would have figured out a way a long time ago. And there wouldn't be so many of us carrying badges and guns. If you want to commit a crime, you're going to commit a crime.
But common sense of the issues that have been proposed.
We have common sense laws now. We have a law on the books in the state of Ohio and federal laws for every gun law that you can think of.
That's not true.
It still has not stopped crime.
We have fly people out trying to catch flies.
Chicago, Illinois has the highest crime rate of any city for its size in the United States. Over 500 people were killed in 2012. It got so bad last summer that they wanted to bring in the National Guard with guns So what do strict gun laws do? They prohibit the honest citizen from owning or obtaining a specific item in hopes that it'll keep the criminal from using it.
Existing gun laws are like catching flies with flypaper. We need a comprehensive approach to the problem. It is a highly complex problem. It is a problem of vast devastation in this country. We need a comprehensive approach. And I think a good place to start is President Obama's platform.
Okay, we've got about a minute left, and each of you are going to have 15 seconds here. If you were king of the world and you had the ability to stop the kind of gun violence that we have seen at Newtown, what would you do? Rosie, 15 seconds.
I'd start with President Obama's plan. It makes common sense. It's not extreme. And it's the first time a politician has been brave enough to go out and have a comprehensive, wide approach to the problem.
Julie?
Not just one here and there.
Again, I would start with education. I would instruct the parents on the damage that is being done by not educating your children yourself.
Dan, if you were king of the world and you could stop the kind of rampant violence that we have seen, what would you do?
I don't know. I don't believe there is anything you could do to stop violence in this world. I do not think there's anything you could do to keep another human being from taking the life of another human being.
That's un-American. I mean, it's un-American
That's
to take
exactly,
that type of
that's human
fatalistic
nature.
attitude.
It's been human nature for
That's
over
un-American.
1,000 years, and it'll continue to be human nature. And you can come up with whatever laws, feel-good laws that you want. It's not going to change anything. It's just going to make people who don't have any criminal background or intent unable to purchase certain items that you feel they shouldn't have.
And unfortunately, we need to leave the discussion there. I think you can see the kinds of disparate opinions that we have. We want to thank you for joining us. I'm sure this is a conversation that we will have in a continued way in the next couple months. Thank you. Good night.